Hello. In this tutorial, I'll walk you through how I use transitions inside CreateStudio. Let's start with the first transition, the Studio Transitions. The first transition option is found right under the Studio panel. In the category called Transitions, these are pre-made video clips you can use between scenes in your project. I'll show you a quick example so you can see how it works. For this example, I'll be using curtain in and curtain out. Just download them and drag them onto your timeline, right above your scene. Notice the curtain takes a bit too long to open, so we can shorten its duration by dragging the start of curtain in and the end of curtain out. Yep, that looks better. Now let's move from this scene to another using the same method, but this time with a different transition. Now I'm choosing a smoke transition and placing it above the two scenes. I'll position it by testing and finding the right spot. Cool, that looks good. All right, I've shown you the first transition feature. Now let's move on to the second feature. Now, the second transition effect is right in the menu called Transitions. These effects can be downloaded and then simply dragged onto the layer you want the transition on. To give you a better idea, I've set up 3 scenes, grouped scene, text layer, and a character. Let's apply transitions to each one and see how they work in action. All right, I'll go with the fourth one and simply drag it onto scene 1. Now, I'll turn off Reveal and enable Conceal. You will see the transition effect on your layer. You can drag it to adjust the speed. Now, let's drag scene 2 under scene 1, right at the start of the effect. You can also use it as an ending transition for the last layer, which will fade into the background color of your canvas. Cool. Now let's move on to text. I'll show you a simple way to use this effect that might spark some ideas. For the text layer, I'll use this effect as the ending for the first text and as the opening for the second text. Let's make it a bit more interesting. Select the first text, go to the Motion panel, choose Scale, and then select Back Up. Now, click on Out, choose Scale again, and this time select Up. All right, now select the second text layer and apply Scale Down Motion. Then for the Out Motion, choose Scale Back Down. Cool, that looks good. You can adjust the animation speed by simply dragging the keyframes to your liking. Now, as a final touch, let's add a visual element to the text. Head over to the Studio panel, select Transitions, pick a visual effect for your text, and drag it above the layer. For this example, I'll go with the fire effect, just to give you an idea of how it looks. All right, now make sure the visual effect is visible and lines up with your text. Position it in the right spot, and then adjust the layer so it matches the length of your text layer. Next, head over to the left menu, choose Track Matte, and mask the effect with your text. Now, duplicate the visual effect, drag it above your next text layer, and update the mask so it's applied to the correct text. Great. Now keep in mind, there are lots of ways you can use this method. Just try experimenting with different motions and visual effects to create unique results. These visual effects I downloaded from Pixabay. As you can see, the style changes just by switching up the font and the visual effect. Now let's add a transition to the character. Just drag the effect onto your character, then disable Reveal and enable Conceal. For the second character, do the opposite, add a reveal. Cool. Let's move on to the next transition feature. All right, you now know two features. The third one is my favorite. It's the one I use the most. This feature is actually quite simple. When you hover between layers, a green button will appear. Just click it, and a panel with about 80 transitions will open. Now just choose the transition you like and click on it. That's all you need to do. You can check out my other tutorial to learn how to use this effect with your character to create a simple tornado intro logo. These effects work on almost any layer: text, images, and videos. So it's really up to your creativity how you bring them to life. Finally, we have custom transitions. You can create your own using the Add Animation option, and if you like, combine it with other transition effects. It's all up to your creativity. All right, now I'll show you a transition from a search animation to your website screen. A quick way to make a cool intro. For this, go to your Studio panel and search for Search. You'll see a few options you can choose from. Or you can create your own custom search animation. I made one earlier, so I'll use that for this example. If you want to learn how to make your own custom search intro, check out my other tutorial. All right, now let's create the scene where we showcase the website. I've recorded my website screen, and I'll use that for this example. Now I'll speed up the screen recording and shorten it to a maximum of 15 seconds. Now let's use the Distort option. Select the layer and click the Distort icon. I'll tilt it slightly to the left to add some depth to the scene. Okay, now let's scale it down a bit. All right, next let's add a motion in. I'll choose Position and set it to top. Next, let's add a background to it. Now let's add our logo and position it on the left. I'll also give it a motion in animation by choosing Position and setting it to bottom. Now let's add our website URL. For this, I'll use the typewriter effect, which you can find in the Components panel. Elect the typewriter effect, click on Edit Text, delete the second text, and type in your website URL. Set the text color to white and choose the Aldrich font. Next, set the H padding to 200 and the V padding to 100. Then, select the background color and make it slightly transparent. Now scale it up and position it below the logo. Now, select a corner dot and drag it to round the corners. Then, reposition the box a little to the left. All right, now let's add some sound effects to the scene. Go to the FX tab, download, and drag it onto your timeline. Now group all the layers, name the group website, and place it right next to the search group layer. Now let's add a transition. Hover between the two layers, click and choose Hyper Zoom. Now I'll change the style of the search intro by adjusting the background and outline colors. Now let's add a fade-out motion to the website layer, then place our logo next to it with both fade-in and fade-out animations. Cool. To finish it off, let's add a whoosh sound effect and publish the video. All right, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. These were the ways I use transitions inside CreateStudio. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Wishing you a wonderful day.